when you talk Hall of Fame, and I love doing this, is really the essence of sports radio. If you really get back to like the origin of it, this is one of the real staples, right? And what we do a lot of is, the Mattingly Hernandez thing, Doc and Darryl, what they could have been if they didn't get messed up and off track. The steroid guys, those are interesting. What really doesn't get hit with the layer and the depth and the frequency is the egregious misses in the NFL. And I know I'm a little biased, and I know we're biased here, but how the hell this guy's not in the Hall of Fame now is a joke, although we're finally about to rectify that. It's the great Joe Klecko. Joe, it's Brandon. How you doing, buddy? What's going on?
Very good, Brandon. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's been a while. So first of all, congrats, man. And I know you're not all the way home. You got to, for those who don't know, Joe, 80% of the voters in January has basically been viewed as a formality over the years with the senior candidates. So you got a call, and while it's not quite punctuated with an absolute trip yet, we all know you're getting in. How did you feel when you got the call?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. It's, so many years I've been, at the end of this whole thing, and everybody gives you that, Joe, it's this year, and, I got this feeling, and, so, you get refused it so many times, you don't get too high about it, you know what I mean? And that was the same way I was going with this. And, of course, when the time came, I was very reserved at the point, and I thought I would be even more reserved because when, the president of the Hall of Fame called me and he told me that I've been a candidate on the senior side, it was surreal. It was an emotional time. My wife, who's a very reserved lady, was jumping up and down. So nice. to see her do that and start yelling and stuff, it was kind of cool. It was a good feeling, a great feeling to know that now, like you just mentioned, it's not a sealed deal yet, and I've been in the construction business a long time to where I was told I have the job and I will go in for my contract and I get the bad news it's going another way. So, I've seen that. So, I don't want that to be a point here. I know everybody talks about it being a formality, but I'm definitely going to raise the glasses in January if it happens, though.
Well, I think you're raising them anyway. Let's face it. I mean, you get off the construction site. I'm sure Joe Klecko's hammered a few back still to live, right? I mean, you still got to let loose.
Without a doubt. Listen, my kids came over to the house last night, and I was up at the Jet Complex and all, and the kids came over and said, Dad, he goes, we're going to have to celebrate? My youngest son. And I said, yeah, we're going to have hamburgers and iced tea. He said, Dad, you're getting old.
I hear you. It's funny, Joe. So the first Jets team that I was really introduced to, and I'm obviously a Jets fan, as you know, you guys were almost there, man. I mean, we all know about the sack exchange and Freeman and Wesley and, Richard Todd, but I mean, Lance Mel, the good old line, Darryl Ray with that 90-something yard pick against the Cincinnati in the playoff, like all those memories. Lance Mel, the 2 picks against the Raiders. I mean, you guys were right there. But the Jets have never been, and maybe this changes at some point in our lives, they're not a glamorous franchise, man. They're not Dallas. They're not the Steelers. They're not the Niners. They don't have that juice. Do you think that because you're a New York Jet and not on one of those teams, that on some weird level that held you back from getting, like, I don't know, if Joe Klecko did this in Dallas, Joe Klecko's in the Hall of Fame 15 years ago. You are.
Well, you make a great point, and that's one of the things that we can't control. And the politics involved in being elected is something that it's tough to handle because in my situation, as you just mentioned, not being from Dallas or one of the glamour teams of the NFL, there's other guys out there in my same position. If you take a look really at the last 24 guys that were involved with the senior side here, every single one of them belongs in the Hall of Fame. It's a tough road to hoe. But, when I was a regular candidate years back, I think I made the last 15 one time, and I've been you look down that barrel so many times about, not being accepted. You wonder about, people talk about New York bias. Is there a bias against New York players also? You always wonder that, but, I can't give it validity because, unlike you who speak to a lot of people and, you hear a lot of hearsay back and forth in the media world,
Yep.
I don't.
I got you.
So, you can have more of an insight to that than I would. And I don't like commenting upon that stuff because a lot of times people take it as like sour grapes, and I don't want to do that.
No, you're too classy, which is why I said it for you, Joe. And we're talking to Joe Klecko here on the Fan Tiki and Tierney Show. Tiki's out, by the way, Joe. I always wondered about this because there are some guys who, in all sports, who are thought to be, fringe Hall of Famers, maybe eventually one day. What was always unique with you is that the guys from your era that you played with and, more importantly, against, to a man, they're like, Klecko, no doubt, Hall of Famer. And I wonder if that made it easier or harder. Easier because they're showing you respect, which must have been great, but harder, because guys who didn't even play a snap were determining your fate.
Yeah, well, one thing that happened a while back ago was when Joe DeLongmore told me this. He said they were counting me. Actually, it was still in the regular voting of the normal players. He said that the reporters were asking him because he was a consultant to the reporters. They always have somebody who's a player or a coach to where the reporters can ask questions that maybe they wouldn't know and the player would. Joe was there on behalf of the players, and they brought my name up and they said, well, you don't know what he is. Is he a nose tackle? Is he a defensive tackle? Is an end? And Joe DeLongmore said, does it really matter? He dominated every position.
Yep.
And that's a point that it was a great point taken, but, at that point it wasn't enough. But, the reporters sometimes categorize things in different ways. And it's about, have you spent enough time on the sidelines to where now we're going to put you in with the gold or bronze bust? They have all kind of different agendas. So it's hard to get through that. But, hey, when you finally make it, like now, I feel vindicated almost. It's not there yet, and I'm always going to bring that up.
I got you.
Because, until that rubber stamp gets put on it, Brandon, I'm going to be sitting in the weeds. But when it happens, it'll be great.
Well, when it happens, we're going to take over the city, dude, because Darrelle Revis is going to be going in as well. We got to get the Jets in the Hall of Fame game. We got to take over the entire town of Canton. We're all there for you, Joe.
Oh, I'm going to tell you, I was at the Jet camp yesterday, and, I was talking to Joe Douglas about it, and I said to him, I said, Darrelle Revis and I, if we both get, set into the Hall at the same time, I said, we're going to make it Canton, or New York West. Because, the fans of New York are just the most, elaborate fans there are in the world, and they travel well. And if the Jets are really, and I talked to Douglas about that, and it's been a while since the Jets were in the Hall of Fame game, that would be unbelievable to have all of that for one weekend. That would be cool.
I would love it. So we're talking to Joe Klecko. You mentioned, obviously, Joe D., the GM, Robert Saleh, and I saw you on SNY last night. That's where I'm like, hey, we got to send Joe a text, see if we can get him on the air today. And so I knew that you were out at camp. Listen, Joe, you used the word before, agenda. You've always been without agenda. You've always been highly principled. You've always been honest and transparent. So I've had conversations really a long time ago, back in the SNY days, like in the green room, whatever, where we just knew this team had talent or they had no talent. This team finally has some horses, but I think on both sides, doesn't mean they're going to win 10 games, but they finally have some talent. Do you see what I see? Like when you look at this team in camp, what does Joe Klecko see?
Well, I believe without a doubt, I was talking to Sally yesterday, and he said that was one of the most momentous things that he did was bring some free agents in who knew him. And he said that he credited Rex Ryan with that, about, you got to bring guys in to know you. And, the one thing he's going to be able to do now, I was talking with Joe Douglas, that you're going to be able to form this team the way you want, because this is young guys. And I used it to the 81 time where we first started going back to the playoffs. And we were a young team, and we were all together. We basically came in within 3 years, everybody on that team except Randy Rasmussen, okay?
Offensive lineman, yep.
And everybody on that team was buying into everything that, each one of us wanted to do, and that was win. Mm-hmm. And whatever that took to win. And I think Salah has that now with all these young guys, and Joe's had a pretty good draft the last couple of years. I mean, I know the quarterback right now is hurt, but, Joe Flacco is no chump. He's been in the Super Bowl. He's been there. And as long as he can stay healthy, he can hold up their end for a long while. Mm-hmm. But defensively, they got guys that can absolutely flat out rush the passer. And if we all know in this league, it's a quarterback league. And if you can put the quarterback on the run or on his back, you're doing something. I mean, look what the Rams did in the later part of the game in Cincinnati last year in the Super Bowl. I mean, they were ahead in the game, and the defensive line pinned their ears back, and it was all Katie bar the door.
Yeah,
and I think you're going to see that with the New York Jets. Plus, the defensive backs have been they're deeper now and they're better. So defensively, and of course, Salah is a pretty good defensive line himself. And his coaching staff has been around, and that means so much. And I said, and I've talked to a lot of people that knew Salah in the beginning, like in the reporting stages and all. Like Howie Long and I had a long talk when they hired him mm-hmm. about how the guys in San Francisco just absolutely would go to the wall for him. And you could see it here. He defends everybody. He's all for his guys. And that's the only thing you can ask of a head coach. Not a guy that's going to throw you under the bus or be critical at times. He's never critical of his players, and he's always going forward. And listen, the one thing a head coach has to do when you open the door to enter the field, you want to rip them down on the way out. Mm-hmm. He has to have you ready to play.
Yeah,
and I think Salah's good at that.
Wait, so Joe, you tell me that Adam Gase didn't inspire everybody before they charged out of the tunnel? Oh, jeez, what a clown show that was! Good God!
Oh yeah,
yikes! Yep. I've mentioned it's Joe Klecko with me here on the Fan Tiki and Tierney show. When I first fell in love with the Jets, early-ish '80s. Those really good teams that just didn't quite crack through, but were there, and I ran through a bunch of names. Funny, like, I'm going to take a name, and I think you're going to agree with me that, and I'm not here to, I'm not dumping on Todd or, Pat Ryan or Kenny O'Brien, who could actually fling. It just had no offensive line, Kenny O. I always thought, like, if I could give that team one quarterback from our past, I'd give you Vinny Testaverde. He'd fit right in the weight room with the attitude. If Vinny Testaverde is quarterbacking you guys, do you win the Super Bowl?
Oh, that because I think the one year he led the league when he was with the Jets, he led the league in passing that year too. Yeah, mm-hmm. Vinny was that kind of guy. Very, very, very tough competitor. Very good. Yeah,
big dude too. Like he'd get in the weight room. I remember hearing from Mo Lewis, he would lift more than Mo.
Yeah, he was a monster of a man too. Yes, he was. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Joe.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Joe.
I just seen him at Marty Lyons' tournament, and he still looks as fit as could be. He looks like he can wing it right now, So, yeah.
He always had. Listen, if the Achilles didn't go, who knows what happened in '99? What would have? We know what happened. Who knows what would have happened? He always had a great arm, blessed with it. So we go from a guy that maybe would have fit with you guys, and let's wrap it up with this. Joe Klecko with us here on the Fan. Zach Wilson banged up. We know he's got an arm. We also know that he might like the older ladies, Joe, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just kidding.
I'm not going there.
I got you. We know he can scramble, all right? But do the Jets, when it's all said and done, do they finally have the guy to elevate them to the Super Bowl? Is he going to be the guy?
Really, I had that talk with Douglas again yesterday. The maturation, of him is having to catch up with the speed of the game, and he has to rely more on what he sees. We were talking about Flacco in practice yesterday, and, we were watching how he'll read, he'll move people, just like Brady does. Older quarterbacks know how to do all those things. And as soon as this kid learns that, and if he has a guy like Flacco with him and he'll listen to him, I mean, like you said, the kid's got all the tools. Just close your mouth, open your ears, and play the game and see what you see. Like you said, talent-wise, he's got a gun. He can get out of trouble,
Yeah.
But he's got to catch up with the speed of the game, reading that backfield. That's the biggest thing.
And
I think
And Joe, I was going to say, the one thing I would add, I can't prove this because I haven't been around them yet, but I feel like he's got more natural leadership than Darnold, than even Sanchez when he had success as a kid. I feel like the veterans, I think Zach Wilson resonates throughout the entire locker room. Is that a fair statement? I think guys just like him.
Well, he did that whole thing in, was it Utah or something over the summer with all the guys, and all of them went out there with him. I mean, that's building a unity with your guys. That's awesome stuff, and he was good at it.
Hey, listen, Joe, I'm sure every Jets fan, really every New York football fan, we'd be saying the same thing about a Giant who should be in but isn't, but I think every football fan would love to have the chance to congratulate you. I know you're not there yet. Trust me, we're not going to jinx it, but you'll be in. But I have the opportunity to do it for everybody. So on behalf of all the great Jet fans, congratulations. Long overdue. One of the great players and one of the great guys in at least that I've ever met in New York football. So congrats, man.
You're the best, brother. Thanks.
You got it. Joe Klecko. It's about freaking time these clowns got their act together.